Good morning. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Petra Weldes, Spiritual Director here, and we are in for a fast and furious ride today. We're going to be moving into our new companion book, Shortcut to a Miracle. This is our book for the month. I'm going to pull it out here. Shortcut to the Miracle. We do have it in the bookstore. And, so we're going to talk about how science and spirituality are starting even to meet. And we're going to talk about the science of creating miracles. And so we're going to have not only the deepening of the experience of the divine as we celebrate together, but we're going to activate our left brains. So I'm giving you fair warning. All right. So, from whatever spiritual tradition or faith path you come, you are certainly welcome here. And so if this is your first Sunday with us, we'd love to say hello.
Hi, I'm Petra Weldes, Senior Minister of the Center for Spiritual Living in Dallas, and we're delighted that you found us here on the web. You can find our Sunday services on our website by every Wednesday, and we love that you can look at us online and explore these spiritual teachings. Feel free to explore our archives. It goes back a number of years with lots of special topics and amazing speakers. You can also sign up for our email news, My Daily Words, and my blog, Spiritual Living with Dr. Petra. If you're looking for a spiritual community, come visit us. Or if you're just in Dallas, drop on by. We'd love to give you a hug. Welcome home.
And into that deep inner stillness, breathing in to that quiet place, that ocean of love, that deep abiding truth that pulsates as the light of God, the song of God, the truth of God, that is all of life. It is my life, it is your life, it is our life. Everything seen and unseen, this divine dance that is the delight of the one. So we come together in this full remembrance and in the full reverence of the indwelling presence that is God. To see with eyes that see, to breathe into this full awareness that God is all there is. To know that indeed as we call forth this good and this truth, anything and everything that we may deem a miracle is the way that the divine is saying yes to that holy yes within. So then this knowingness of this truth, as the fragrance of the jasmine, as the beauty of the violet lilac, as the marmalade sunset and that pink sunrise of the eyes and smile of a child, the love between partners, the love of friends and the beloved, this is God. It is always God. It is only God. And so we breathe into this knowingness together, our hearts wide open, expansive, expressive, giving and receiving. We fully participate in this knowingness of the truth. So as we come together right here, right now, in this divine, sacred, holy remembrance of the light and the love, that not only are we ignited and activated, not only is that light just shining in through and as us, but we take it out into the world as a remembrance to those that we encounter that is God. And to be that truth, and that space, and that container, and that expansive awareness of the love that is the one. So I call everything right here, right now, so beautiful, for it is God. I call everyone right here, right now, so beautiful, because it is God. I call all that is revealed so perfect, because it is God. And I call each one of us, the light in the world, absolutely, brilliantly, boldly, God. And it's in this knowingness and this love and this deep stillness that reveals itself with every kiss, hello, God, that we just affirm it, we accept it, we are ignited, we are activated, and we dance in that light that is our life, that is God, right here, right now, by affirming it together and saying, and so it is.
that is our lovely and talented Jonathan and his beautiful wife, Doreen. And how wonderful is that? And you know what I love? I love watching you, the two of you, watch each other as you're playing music. And the mutual love and support is also really beautiful. Thank you so much. Yeah, somewhere over the rainbow. Isn't that where we think our miracles sometimes are? Right? Like someday we'll get something over there, or hopefully, and sometimes our miracles feel very far away. Or sometimes we think miracles only happened at some time in the past, or the time for miracles is over. And yet one of the things that we know that we ascribe to here in our philosophy of spiritual living is that we are constantly expecting miracles. That's the power of our theme this year, TSRW, this stuff really works. We actually expect our prayers to be answered. We actually expect miracles to be happening. Big ones, little ones, all kinds of miracles. And that they should be happening in our very own lives today. So, how is that possible? How is it possible to have miracles, to experience miracles when, sometimes life doesn't feel that way, does it? It doesn't feel that way at all. So we're going to begin at the beginning. This amazing thing when we look out into the universe and we see this extraordinary, what? Beauty, order. Have you looked at the Hubble telescope pictures? It's incredible. And then you look at some of Veronica's photographs when she gets right in there into a flower, like right into the flower. It's like, oh my gosh, it's more beautiful than any painting you would ever want to see. And we look into the eyes of our children, and there's this exquisite, amazing thing happening out there. And it seems to be constantly operating in some magnificent way. The planets continue to revolve in their heavens, and the seasons and cycles continue to move. And oh yes, we might sort of get in the way of that a little bit, but not in the grand scheme of things. Life is this extraordinary explosion of beauty and grandeur, and it's going on all the time out there in the physical world. In our companion book, Shortcut to a Miracle, this is written by two people, Michael Rann and Elizabeth Rann Errett, and I'm going to be speaking about them as if they were collective, one person, because they actually write the book in one single voice. And so in Shortcut to a Miracle, this is what they write. Try to imagine a speck smaller than an atom, one that explodes into an incredibly hot mass of energy, hot beyond anything we can imagine, and of such unfathomable force as to release in one instant all the energy needed to form all the matter that will ever exist, even billions of years later. Within seconds, this energy begins to produce particles and antiparticles that after 300,000 years form clouds of hydrogen and helium atoms. Another billion years, and these clouds form into clumps that become stars and planets, some very like our own planet Earth. A cooling process continues for another 2 billion years, and over the next 3 billion years, a process of biological evolution takes place on planet Earth, which ultimately leads to the existence of thinking human beings who are capable of knowing, understanding, and appreciating that all of this has actually taken place. Can this be anything but miraculous? Scientists tell us that in that first millisecond as the Big Bang happened, that there were so many amazing processes that were going on, that it was within the first second that the universe began to expand into space and time. Before that, there was nothing. And in that first second, there was nothing outside. You could only be inside the universe. There was actually no space and time. And in the first 30 seconds, as it began to move into these creation of these particles and then the atoms, and the light that began at 300,000 years, in that whole time period, if the temperature had been like 0.001% hotter or colder, we wouldn't be here today. And the force with which things moved out in all directions, if that had been 0.001% more or less, we wouldn't be here today. If that force had been even 0.001% stronger, the universe would have scattered into a bazillion pieces and would never have coalesced. Or if it had been that 0.001% smaller in force, it would have simply collapsed in on itself. Isn't that a miracle? Isn't that an extraordinary thing to think about? Everywhere along the way, there was that moment when just the right thing came about for the next wave of creation to unfold. What an extraordinary thing. And all of it moving forward in this infinite capacity of unfolding in a harmonious process to create irises and bunnies and sequoia trees and humpback whales and you and me. Isn't that amazing? And so scientists have been looking at this recently. Albert Einstein says there are two ways to live. You can live as if nothing is a miracle, or you can live as if everything is one. It's an extraordinary thing to think about how this walk we've been on for thousands of years just in the human race, as we have wanted to answer the question, how does this all happen? How did it all come to be? And what's our relationship to it? And how do we engage with everything that's going on? And how do we participate in a way that, oh dear, please God, could it work out? And we have, well, I love this. If you don't believe in miracles, perhaps you've forgotten that you are one. Just the fact that you're here. Just the fact that you have a loving heart that seeks spirituality, that seeks to live in a way in accordance to something that causes you to know the truth of who you are. Some yearning that you have within your soul to feel connected to all of life. You see, for thousands of years, we were embedded in our understanding of the cosmology of the universe. We had mythology and we had shamans and priests who could teach us and tell us about our deep relationship to spirit and life, and we felt a part of all of that. And then what happened all of a sudden is that people began to see things a little differently. They began to look at the world, and they began to see that, wait a minute, there was something about the way that it worked that made sense. And then Galileo was hit on the head by an apple. No, that wasn't Galileo. It was Newton, wasn't it? Newton was hit on the head by an apple. No, Galileo, what did he do? He looked into the heavens and he said, oh, the sun doesn't revolve around the earth. Big no-no. We are not the center of the universe. Oh, darn it. We are not the center of the universe. They didn't like him for that. And so then Newton got hit on the head with an apple, and what did he discover? Oh my gosh, there's laws. There are laws. We can actually measure and discover. We can discover how this world works, right? And we can measure it, and we can say it's hard, and it's this shape, and it has this much dimension, and all of that, and we can begin to understand it, and science was born. And out of that science, we began to really discover that we had efficacy in the world, that we didn't have to pray to something out there to please God, make it okay, that we could actually begin to discover and use the laws of nature. And we could use them for our benefit. And the scientific revolution happened. And out of that, the scientific revolution, then we had the industrial revolution. And out of that, we had the information revolution. And we are where we are today because of this extraordinary explosion of the understanding of the natural laws and the ways in which we can use them. And while we may look out and on our planet and we may see all kinds of things that we wish were different, we may see all kinds of places where children are still starving and where there's still war and there's still things that are not working out the way that we would like them to be working out. The truth is, on our planet across the whole, we are more peaceful than we've ever been. The baseline standard of living for people across the planet is higher than it's ever been. In the last 200 years, even the most poverty-stricken areas of the world have all been lifted, as we have all been lifted. And this has been the product of this extraordinary explosion of understanding of the natural world and of our ability to shape it and work with it. That's been the blessing of this new understanding about life. Like every so many times, blessings, they come with a downside. In this case, the downside is we became disembedded in the cosmos. We became disembedded from the mythologies that taught us about who we were. We became disembedded with our relationship with the divine. And we began to stop believing in miracles. We began to start believing that miracles only happened sometime a long time ago, or maybe they really didn't happen at all. And we settled on a way of viewing the world that, well, we call it Newtonian physics. It's a clockwork. And if you wind it up, it simply works the way it works. And it works in a sort of random manner. But once the randomness has gotten started, then there's this sort of weird order that happens. And there are laws that we can use. But we had become separated from the physical, natural world. And in the process, so had God. Spirit had moved completely outside of the physical universe. And the only way to have a miracle was to pray for that which was outside of the universe to come and somehow decide that we were worthy of it. We call it divine intervention. And drop down a hand and move us from one place or to another, or take away the challenge, or make the bridge. And somehow we thought that we had to learn how to appease or work with this thing that was completely outside of the physical. And so that's been our situation now for a couple hundred, 300-400 years, this deepening divide between science and spirituality. So this morning, as we talk about our shortcut to a miracle, we're going to begin to bring those two things back together. One of the greatest gifts that science is beginning to give us in quantum physics and quantum mechanics is a re-emergence of a coming together of this idea that science and spirituality are not actually so far apart, and that we can experience miracles. And that you can make a declaration and you can have that experience so that you too will text to your friends or post on our Facebook page, TSRW, this stuff really, really works. And I'm having a miracle and I'm living in answered prayer. So to kick off this conversation, then, we want to hear about a miracle and TSRW in our community voice from longtime member Elaine Smith. Elaine, come on up here. And we're so happy to have you share with us. Yay.
Good morning, everybody. So, so I have this Stuff Really Works story. I've been a member of the center for just under 7 years, and there's many wonderful things that have influenced what I'm about to tell you. And it's been things like practitioner tune-ups and leveraging the classes and the workshops and participating in the community on different teams and being of service. There's lots of that energy and support and foundation here for us. I always feel like when I take a class or even a workshop, it can be an hour Wednesday night series, but I always feel like I leave here just a little bit more aware and connected and smarter than when I got here. One such workshop that had an impact for me was someone we've had here at the center I know of at least a couple of times. Her name's Esther Nicholson, and she told a story about in her workshop about the envelopes that life gives us or that are presented to us. And it can be from whoever you want it to be. It can be from God, from Spirit, from the universe, from the post office, whatever. But you get these envelopes, and you'll get one that's that pretty white. Maybe it's a formal wedding type invitation, really pretty. envelope that invites you to change something or to take advantage of something, change your financial future, or show up at this event, whatever. But it's that nice, pretty invitation. And, if things are going well in our life, as they were for me, I just kind of go, oh yeah, that's pretty, I'll try to make it. And then things get going, you get busy, and pretty soon the pink notice shows up, or the pink envelope shows up, and it's that, hey, don't forget, there's this event, or there's this thing coming up, and I didn't hear from you yet. What's going on? Don't forget. And again, if you don't pay attention, you keep on trucking, so to speak, and then suddenly it's this warning letter, this red notice shows up. Your power gets turned off, or you lose your job, or something catastrophic happens, and you get knocked out of your comfort zone by the universe because you weren't paying attention to those other two notices. So if you're not going to take advantage of it, you're not going to kind of pay attention and be present, then I'm going to whack you upside the head and knock you off your platform anyway. So keeping in mind that envelope story, I've gone through times when I knew I was making a choice not to act. I sometimes find annoying that when it comes to choices, not choosing to do something or not making a choice is actually making a choice. And so when things are good, okay, let's just keep going. And so I ignored some of those, that white pretty envelope or envelopes. So just towards the end of 2013, about a little over a year ago in year past from now, there were just some ups and downs. There were some rather big waves in my life that were going on, personally, professionally, and I described it to the practitioners and to friends in this community as I just felt a little bit seasick with some of the things going on in life. There was, things would go up and then things would go down, and then things would go up and things would go down, and I just felt seasick. And about that time, by the time I kind of got to August of last year, I shared the envelope story with some coworkers who were kind of feeling a little bit pink envelope-ish, and myself as well. And we all kind of agreed, yeah, we think we're at the pink envelope in terms of our career and what we're doing right now. And I came home and I started with this spiritual practice, or I'll call it that, where I have to change my passwords at work a lot. I work on computers a lot. I have to change my password all the time. And so I started being really deliberate with my passwords. So I might make it abundance, or I might make it joy, or peace, or whatever it was. And my thought process with that was that I would type that multiple times a day as I logged on to things. And it was a way to keep consciousness on something I wanted to focus on. And so by the time the burning bowl ceremony, the New Year's Day ritual came around, I'd kind of had enough of 2013. I'd been doing my password practice and keeping kind of consciousness. And so when I got to the burning bowl, I was ready to write some things down on my flash paper, hand it to Reverend Petra, and let her set it on fire, and it goes up in flames. If you've been to that, it's a really cool thing. And it creates space for something new. And so when I left the service that day, I decided my next password, or my motto for 2014, was going to be transform. And so that's what I started off 2014, January 1st with, was transform or transformation. And what I knew was I didn't know what this really looked like. I didn't know what that really meant, but I just knew that when all was said and done, what I was going to use was visioning to try and figure out what it was I wanted or what I wanted to do next, and that I wanted to be pulled towards something versus wait for that red envelope and actually be kicked out of something or run away for something or be pushed away. I wanted to be pulled. So transform was the password. Some opportunities at work started to come up, by the time that password was up, and I switched my password to believe to kind of, energize what my focus was. And so I was believing in some of these new opportunities. I was removing some of the restrictions through the visioning that I had on my relocating or not relocating, and just some of the things that I would have to do to change things up before that red notice appeared. And ultimately, so basically between January and the end of April, I've manifested a new opportunity. It does mean that I move, and I'm actually really excited about it, but it's hard to leave this group. But it's through all of these resources that we've had in this community and all the foundation that I've built, and through those envelopes and paying attention, that now I have this really cool, very sexy, very blingy job that I had no idea how I was going to get to 6 months ago. I've actually looked at it for about 3 years. And I thought, I don't know how to get over there, but that looks really cool. And literally between February and the end of April, I found out how to get over there, and I'm over there. It's mine. So what I want you to know is that this stuff really works.
And it's shown up with such ease and grace that I kind of go, that was kind of easy. Shockingly easy. And it was okay that I didn't know how to connect the points and make it point A to point B. I just kind of had to set the intention that I was willing to pay attention and to do the work. So there we go. Thanks.
Thank you, Elaine. And just a warning, not everybody's TSRW can take them away. But we do know that it happens, right? And we follow our bliss. So, as Elaine so beautifully shared with us, a miracle is a series of natural events occurring in the right sequence and at the right time to produce wonderful results. It's not a supernatural event. It's not divine intervention. It's not necessarily something that breaks the natural laws. It is this unfolding of series of events because we've paid attention, because we've put our focus on it, because we've participated in it. So I just want to share two little stories. One is actually from this book. It's the story of a guy who's working on the roof of a cathedral, and it's very high up, and it's a very steep roof, and he slips at the top of the roof, and he starts to slide right down the roof, and you hear him shouting and praying, God help me, God help me, God help me, as he's sliding down. And just at the very end, his belt gets stuck on a nail, and he says, oh, never mind, God, it's okay, I've got it. And we don't, and how many of us miss our miracles? We miss them altogether because somehow it wasn't that supernatural act we were expecting. And you've heard me tell this joke before. I know you've heard me tell this story. This is about the story about the guy who's on the roof and the flood comes, right? And he's praying to God, please rescue me. And the canoe comes, hey, come on, get off the roof, we'll help you. No, I'm praying to God, God will rescue me. And the motorboat goes by, come on, we'll get you off the roof and we'll take you to shore. No, I'm praying to God, God will take care of it. And the flood's rising higher and higher, and he's up on top of the chimney, and he's all on top of the chimney. That's all he's got left. And the helicopter comes by. We'll pull you up. No, it's okay. God will take care of everything. And the big next wave comes, and he drowns, and he's standing at the pearly gates. I was praying to God, what happened? And God said, well, I sent you a canoe, a motorboat, and a helicopter. But you weren't paying attention. Yes, thank you very much. And that is exactly what we say, right? So what's really happening? What's really happening is that a miracle is that opportunity for us to use the hidden spiritual laws that are the reflection of the natural laws that science has been unfolding here in the last 400 years for us as we have begun to experience the orderly, harmonious outpicturing of the universe on the natural level. We have begun to recognize, oh wait, there is a deep spiritual understanding that reminds us that this is a reflection. This is an outpicturing. This is the physical expression of what's happening on the unseen spiritual realm. Now, this teaching goes back to the most ancient mystical teaching there is, the Hermetic teaching, back way thousands and thousands of years ago. There's a tablet that was found from the Hermetic teaching, and on that tablet it says, "As above, so below." That which is below is corresponding to that which is above, and it is this way that the unified one shows up. Because the as above, so below. So when we look at the natural laws, we begin to recognize, oh, there are spiritual laws. There are laws at the spiritual level that are operating. If we will begin to understand them, if we will begin to use them. Yeah, this is one of the galaxies in the universe. Isn't that amazing? It looks like an eye, doesn't it? There is a power and a wisdom and an intelligence in the universe. And it's managing the universe. Don't you think it could manage your move to Seattle? I am completely serious. There is an power and an intelligence in the universe, and it's operating in a lawful manner, and it is managing the universe, which has brought us into being, and grows our children, and causes the roses to bloom and to be fragrant and to give of their gift. And surely, as we have emerged as the thinking, self-reflective, self-aware, self-conscious beings who can actually see this, surely there is a way that we can begin to participate, that we can begin to understand this, and that we can begin to use it, and to see that the universe is always operating under these laws, and that these laws are, well, they're laws. What does it mean to be a law? It's impersonal. It has no opinion about you. It doesn't care who you are or what you've done. If you turn the light switch on, the light comes on. That's what a law is. It is the same everywhere, all the time, for everybody. And we can rely on that unequivocally. We can rely on that. So let's talk about how science and spirit are meeting. So the first idea here from quantum mechanics is that there is the building block of the universe, and it is actually energy or light, and it acts as both a wave and a particle. It's very annoying when you're a scientist and something doesn't stay put, and you can't actually measure it. Like, you can measure this podium, and you can say what it is and where it is and when it is and how it is. You can say all those kinds of things. You can't actually say that about subatomic particles. Subatomic particles show up as either a wave or a particle, this photon of light. And you'll notice that with these new experiments, it's not that it changes from a wave to a particle. It's that there is this thing called a photon of light, and it shows up wave-like or particle-like. But it's the same thing. It shows up either wave-like or particle-like. But it's the same thing. It doesn't change from a wave to a particle. And so if we think about this, they talk about it, the wave is the field. The wave is the field of energy as it's moving. And it is the field from which all things are created. And then the particle is the thing. You can point to it. You can say, there it is. That's the one. You can count it. You can measure it. And we understand that the same thing is true. Scientists are now saying the same thing is true about our thoughts. Our thoughts are waves. They are waves of consciousness that move through our brain. And when our thoughts coalesce into an idea, they become a particle. They become form. But it's the same thing. It's the wave-like thought and the form-like particle. But it's the same thing. Mystics and shamans and spiritual teaching from the beginning of time have taught us that there is this invisible wave-like field from which all of creation springs, and then there's creation. There's matter. And we think of it as two separate things. And yet it is the same thing showing up, wave-like, as the field of potentiality. The Hindus call it the void, the pregnant void from which all things come, the ultimate nothing, or the thing itself, matter, the individual particles. Do you see? But it's all the same thing. It's a continuum. It's a continuum, and on one side it acts a certain way. It acts like spirit. It acts like thought. It acts like the field. Or, on the other side, it acts like the particle, the form, the individual form, matter, the specific thing that you can point to. Do you see? It acts like it, but it's all the same thing. Scientists don't really know what to do with this information. Albert Einstein, as he was discovering quantum science, he discovered it through the first special theory of relativity, E equals mc squared. Matter is energy speeded up to the constant, the speed of light squared, 186,000 miles per second. And Einstein said nothing in the universe can go faster than that. And the equation became exactly this. Spirit, energy, equals mass, speeded up. It's a continuum, the same thing. And then in his general theory of relativity, he began to really talk about, well, how does this work? How does this manifest itself? And one of the things that came about in all of these experiments was that it manifests itself in response to the observer and the expectation of the experiment. Oh no, this is really annoying. Science is supposed to be objective. It's supposed to be orderly in a way that doesn't have anything to do with the person who's involved in it. And yet, in a very orderly and lawful process, science began discovering, oh wait, no, this was an attribute of the quantum field, that it responds to the observer. This was a lawful attribute of the quantum field. It wasn't a mistake of the experiment, and it doesn't make it unlawful. It is the way it works. And it works this way all the time for every experimenter and anyone who is observing a quantum experiment. It is an attribute of the quantum field that it responds to the observation and expectation of the person doing the experiment. In Shortcut to a Miracle, they say everything in the universe is affected by everything else, because there's always expectations and observations. Finally, the last really amazing thing that comes out of this experience, and this is where Einstein just drew the line. He was like, oh no, we are not going there. The notion that it's all connected. Somehow it's all connected. Einstein believed and he really believed in a static universe, and that really nothing could move faster than the speed of light. His equation had proved it. And so in many arguments with people, scientists around the world, he finally said in disgust, I will prove to you that it's impossible. And he said he did a thought experiment. His thought experiment was really, given all of the things that you're teaching or that you're saying about this quantum science, in theory, I should be able to take paired particles and to put one here and put the other one 1,000,000 miles away. This was a thought experiment he was doing. And put the other one 1,000,000 miles away, and if I change the spin on this one, instantly, you're telling me, instantly this other one over here 1,000,000 miles away is going to change. It's not possible. Nothing can go faster than the speed of light. It's not possible, therefore all of this is silly nonsense. 35 years later, 5 years after his death, unfortunately, they proved exactly that in the laboratory. Bell's theorem proved exactly that. In their particle accelerators, obviously they couldn't put something 1,000,000 miles away and measure it, but they did measure that if you take quantum particles and you split them apart and you put them over a long distance and you change the spin on one instantly, no time has passed. Instantly the other one changes in exactly the same manner. There's no communication that goes that fast other than thought. All contained within a field in which we're all connected. A field in which we're all connected, this extraordinary moment of awareness that there is something very different going on. Something very different. And so, this is a picture of an atom. A little different than the little Tinker Toy atom that I'm thinking that you saw in 8th grade science. Yes? Because the problem is quantum particles, well, you can't measure their location and their velocity at the same time. You can't tell where it is or how fast it's going at the same time. And so quantum particles are only potentialities. They're not predictable. They have a potential. Actually, it says here, quantum particles have a tendency to exist, a tendency to happen. A quantum particle is a potential waiting to happen. And that's what our physical universe is made out of. A potential waiting to happen. Surely this has something to do with miracles, doesn't it? Shortcut to a miracle says miracles don't happen to us. They happen by means of us. Miracles don't happen to us. They happen by means of us. So this is the playing field that we've set today. Shortcut to a Miracle talks about, we're going to spend the next month discussing how do we utilize this? How do we understand this? If all of these things are really true, understanding these laws and using them is our shortcut to a miracle. Not because divine intervention is happening, but because we actually know how to participate in this process. So I'm going to invite you to Wednesday nights. Tracy Brown says this is one of her absolute most favorite books. And so she's going to be doing the Wednesday night series. And every Wednesday night, you're going to go deeper into this to learn about the science, to learn about the technology of it, and to explore and discover how to use it in your own life. Next week, we have a beautiful Mother's Day service planned for you that'll be done by the Women's Circle. We have a lovely gift for our moms. And then we'll be taking up this conversation in the last 2 Sundays of May. Now that we have set the field of understanding, we're going to talk about how do we apply it? How do we practice it? How do we find that shortcut to our own miracles so that we can stand up here with Elaine, with our own TSRW, expecting miracles, expecting our prayers to be answered. So let us pray. Just inviting you to take a breath. Taking a breath into that magnificent universe that you are, that inner space that is the truth of your being, that inner reality that is as beautiful as the outer universe that we just saw. There's no place where spirit is not present, no place where life isn't happening, no place where these truths don't apply. So it's not that miracles don't ever happen. It's that everything is holy now.
And wine from water is not so small. An even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. And so the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush. singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out. Today the only difference is everything is holy now.
And so we just affirm that everything is holy. It is, in fact, spirit in form. It is the very love and life and presence of the divine moving into creation, in, through, and as each one of us, in, through, and as all life, all beings everywhere. And everywhere we look is the possibility for a miracle. And every place in our lives, there is the potential for something new. And this gives us the opportunity for hope and for joy and peace, and for that a love and abundance that we affirm to be present. And so we are blessed by this truth. We become a blessing. We celebrate it. And so it is.